So this week we continue into looking a bit more closely to embodying what it is to understand that our community, our whole spiritual community's vision for this month is global transformation. And I love that it's this month because we could do with a bit of transformation all over the world and especially here at home. And it is through the transformation of each individual one of us, of course, and that's the kicker. And so in keeping with that, to help us realize that, we are invited to remember that we are called in this teaching to live courageously and fearlessly and passionately as we embody the understanding that unlimited possibility is always at our fingertips to experience and to realize. So this week we're looking at ourselves as these courageous and fearless and passionately engaged individuals in our lives at a very high level of awareness, It's not surprising either that this month is dedicated to supporting the diminishing of bullying. This is the month for doing that, supporting the diminishing of bullying. And also in this month, there's a real effort to do everything we can to support the elimination of domestic violence. And I saw somebody wearing a purple nail this week, and it was a man. And it was because that's to show your support of supporting the ending of domestic violence. So I look forward to all you men out there wearing a purple nail for the rest of the month. And so all of this is happening at the one time so that, we can become aware that the only way all of this happens, the good that happens, is by means of you and by means of me, each individual one of us being the candle that is lighting. We're all candles, but we're not always lit. So we need to light the candle when it goes out, and it will go out because we'll quench it ourselves, no trouble at all. But it's okay as long as we realize what we've done and put it back on again. And so as we move through this week, we're going to be dwelling on what it is to live a fearless and a courageous and a passionately engaged life at a high level of awareness. In other words, we're going to be endeavoring to live our best selves as our best selves. And that will take us watching things, what we're thinking, feeling, doing, and how we're being. And so Dr. Ernest Holmes says, we're not put in this plane just simply to live and to work. He said, we're also here to be happy, to be fulfilled, to be enthusiastic, and to live a prosperous, abundant life. And we can, provided, he reminds us, that we embody the principles of the teaching. Now, it's one thing to hear it, it's one thing to get it mentally and understand it intellectually. It's a whole different process to embody it, and you and I know that very well. But once we do embody it, then great good, all the new and wonderful ways of realizing our potential, infinite potential, opens up before us like a great big sea that lets us move through into this paradisial kind of experience in our lives. And that's there for you and that's there for me. And our endeavor this week is to endeavor to get there. And so it's a very, very important thing that we know how we can live courageously and fearlessly and passionately engaged so that we are living up to our potential. And the how of it, you and I know from being in this teaching for quite some time, those of us who have been and those who are new to it are getting that idea. It's not going to happen without you and I endeavoring, spiritually endeavoring, and doing our spiritual work. Now, it sounds like work, and it is work in the beginning of the dawning of a deeper conscious awareness of who and what we are. And so we work at it, we endeavor at it, and we don't make it a hard slog. We make it a work that we love to embrace and love to be engaged in and love to do. And what does that work look like? Well, there are all kinds of thoughts about that. But all of the spiritually realized masters would say that spiritual practice of some kind or another is the door that we must enter into and stay inside the door, not just come in and come out, come in and come out, come in and come out, but stay in there once we've entered it. And when we do that, then the work no longer becomes work anymore. It's just a natural way of life and living. So we work at it until we don't have to work at it anymore. And it's just second nature to us now. You see? And that's what we do. And so you have people, we know from Ernest Holmes what he thinks about the importance of meditation and all of that, but it's not just Ernest Holmes, and he's not the first one that had it. God knows there's bazillions before him knew the same thing. And, we have people like Paramahansa Yogananda, who is saying, there are 3 things I do every single day and I never miss. 3 things I do every single day and I never miss. And one of them is I never miss my morning or night meditation. The other thing that I do is I engage in my spiritual exercises, whatever they are to him, probably the breathing exercises, who knows, whatever it is, but his spiritual exercises. And the third thing is I serve others. So I meditate morning and evening, I engage throughout the day in my spiritual exercises, and throughout the day I serve others. And then he says, somehow or another, all the other lesser things get done. Everything is lesser to those 3 things. Krishnamurti then says, when you're thinking in terms of, Krishnamurti and Paramahansa Yogananda were great spiritual leaders of our time. And they came from the East, and they merged into American society beautifully. And Krishnamurti was the first real spiritual teacher from the East that said, you don't need a guru. You really don't need a guru. The guru is within yourself. You don't need an intermediate. You are your own guru. You just have to get in touch with that genius within you, that light within you, that power within you, that presence within you, and then think and live and move and have your being in it and from it. And so he said that the first movement into meditation is to watch yourself. Watch yourself. Watch what you think, watch what you feel, watch how you walk, what you eat, how you are, how you act. Watch your small self. That's the first movement into real and true meditation. Watch your human self, your egoic self. Just watch it. And watch without judgment. Watch without judgment. Just observe. Observe. And then he said, in time, you will become the observer of divinity alone. You will become the observer of divinity alone, and you will have entered into consciousness where that which is beholding and that which is beheld, so to speak, become one thing and one thing alone, and unification occurs. So you observe the lesser self until you no longer are observing the lesser self, and somehow or another you find yourself beholding the divine self, and you're in that unified state of being. Now that sounds very easy, just to watch yourself. Let me tell you. You think watching a 3-year-old is hard? Compared to watching yourself, it's a piece of cake. Piece of cake. So you know that. This is not new, and I know that. It's not new. We've heard it before. But this week, I'm asking us all to make a greater effort in watching ourselves so that we can behold something more than appearances in ourselves and in each other and out there in the wider world, so that we can get beyond the appearances to the truth that sets us free from being confined and imprisoned through observation of appearances and conditions. You see, that's the key to it all. That's the key to it all. So what stops you and what blocks me from being that courageous and fearless and passionately engaged person who is open and receptive to all of life's beautiful possibilities. What is it that stops us and blocks us? Me, myself, and I. Ourselves. We stop ourselves. I loved when Teddy Roosevelt said, you know what, if you could kick in the pants that person that's responsible for all your troubles, you would never sit down for a month. Not for a month could you sit down. So, my dear ones, you and I have the ability and the capacity to change things. We really do. It's all about change. And you know, all of us have entered into the sanctuary in different states of being. Some of us have entered in here with a hop, skip, and a jump, celebrating, you know, maybe something wonderful has happened and causes us to be extra gleeful and so on and so forth. Some of us may have entered into this room in quiet desperation, having cried ourselves to sleep, maybe for a week, if not last night. And then the rest of us are in there in between those two poles somewhere. And it doesn't matter how you've entered into the sanctuary, if I've entered into the sanctuary. However, you and I have the choice with regard to how we will leave this sanctuary. And it doesn't have to be the way we entered it. We could be more joyous, or we could be more open and receptive to feeling better and being better in ourselves, because somehow or another that which is greater than we are has kind of touched us. We felt a little impulse from that, and we've had a little bit of a charge of energy that says, this is not my reality, this is not my truth. I feel broken, I feel disappointed, I feel bruised, I feel battered, I feel forgotten, I feel neglected, I feel like a non-entity, however bad that can be that I'm feeling. But it is a feeling, and the feeling will pass. It always passes. Feelings always pass. Life will turn itself around, and life will be better by means of me. In the meantime, I'm just going to trust. Trust that this is so. I'm going to endeavor to embody the teaching, to believe the teaching, to trust the teaching, and to have faith in my life's creative process, knowing that it always turns around and that life always gets better, no matter how dark the moment. That's how it is. That's how life is. That's how it has been. That's how it is now. And that's how it will always be. But as I move through my experience of life, and as I get what Ernest Holmes says, a higher and deeper and greater perception of my life, as I expand my vision for my life, as I see a wider and deeper and higher perception of my life, I will know, not just think it, but I will feel it and know it, that my life is in a forward movement, and it always has been. But I will get it. I will get it. But I need to grow that higher and deeper and wider perspective and have a greater vision for myself and my life, no matter what. Because it doesn't matter how low I have gone, how lowly I feel in the way I am responding to my life and living. It matters not. It's a very real experience, and it's icky and yucky and horrible and awful and dreadful and any other thing you can think of to describe it. But it's transitory, it's temporary, it's passing, and I need to take the first step of understanding that in order to recover myself again and turn things around. That's what I need to do. Because I can do it. I can do it. I wouldn't be invited to a great, good, and full, abundant life if it wasn't possible. And I am invited since time began by all those people who realized themselves and recovered themselves and remembered themselves that great goodness, great abundance, great opulence is available to us. And it is for everyone no matter what we have labeled people, good, bad, or indifferent, it is for everyone without exception. And everyone without exception, no matter how low they may have gone in life and living, can rise up again like the phoenix in splendor. And this gorgeous, magnificent, free-flowing creature can emerge out of ashes, charcoal. This gorgeous creature can emerge. And that gorgeous creature is you. It always was you, and it always will be you, regardless of what you're thinking and feeling about yourself. But doesn't it stand to reason, my dear ones, if thinking makes it so, if the power of thought is what projects our lives and its experiences, then how come you and I are not giddy with delight in thinking, oh my gosh, I can fix everything and anything by fixing the way I think, by fixing the way I feel. I just have to change my mind, my mindset. I just have to clean up the mental atmosphere I have been marinating in, stewing in. And then, consequently, a whole new life and life's experience will be mine. But see, no one can do it for you. No one. Everybody can point to the well of wisdom and say, there, drink from the waters of the well of wisdom. We can all point for each other to where it is. But we cannot drink the water for each other, unfortunately. As every good parent will tell you, if I could take on the woes and the wails of my children, I would. If I could save them from one little bit of upset, I would. But I can't. It's their journey. It's their experience. And they have to experience what they experience in order to realize their own great good selves. We can't do it for each other. We can help each other indeed. Now, the beauty of a spiritual community is you do not have to celebrate alone. You do not have to mourn alone. You do not have to do anything alone. You can have company. The beauty of a spiritual community is when all is said and done, forgetting about all of the gripes we have about it, and all of the complaints we have about it, and all of what's not right about it at times. It's just a bad habit that we human beings have. It's like we're in our spiritual community the very same way as we are in our homes, moaning and groaning and belly aching. Nevertheless, we have each other, and we are here for each other. And when the chips are down, we definitely are in each other's corner. But we don't have to wait for that to be proven to us. We're here for each other all of the time. And we get over ourselves. And when we are real with each other, we meet each other. And we support each other. And we help each other and lift each other and inspire each other and encourage each other. We love up in each other. And that's the beauty of it. And it's the same out there in your wider communities, in your homes, under your own roofs. You're there for each other. Your friendship groups, you're there for each other. Have you noticed that? That when anybody's in trouble, all of a sudden, we're all there. We're all there, supporting, doing whatever we can. And it's a beautiful thing to see when people come together and support each other. Unfortunately, the human tendency is to wait until there's a disaster of some kind or another to show that this is the great love and care that we have for each other. But now you and I are called to practice that before any of that happens. And this week, to live courageously, to live fearlessly, to live passionately, which means to be engaged in life and living. Engage yourself in your life and your living. Be engaged, be present to it, be alive in your living, to your living, as you're living. Be alive, which means be conscious, be awake, be alert, be present, be focused, be attentive. It's a big calling, but you know what? You and I can do this. You and I can do this, or we wouldn't be sitting in this room listening to this, and the people who are listening in, who are streaming and later will listen in on the computers and so on. We're all called to this. That's why we're listening to it. We're hearing it. And we're called to it because we're equal to it and because it's ours to experience. And we can experience it. The power power of thought is an awesome power, as Paramahansa Yogananda shared about one of his chief spiritual teacher, who was a very young man, and he was very, very ill indeed, and he'd lost a terrible amount of weight. And he went to his guru, in his convalescence, he went to visit his guru, and he explained that he had this ailment and that he'd lost a lot of weight, and his guru's response was, "So, you've made yourself sick, yeah? Well, tomorrow you could probably feel better." And lo and behold, the next day he came back and he was delighted, he felt great. And the guru said to him, "Okay, so your illness is a very serious illness and you're still very, very fragile. So, just be careful. Who knows whether this state will last." So he dragged himself back the next day, barely getting there. He said, "Oh, I've had a terrible night and I feel terrible." And the response again, "So you've made yourself sick again, have you?" Well, this went on for several days, for the whole week. He'd be sick, he'd be feeling good, he'd be sick, he'd be feeling good. So eventually it dawned on the good Sri Yukteswar, who became a very famous guru in his own right later, that his embodying the suggestions of his teacher was having an effect on how he was healing or not healing. And so the light bulb went on, and he came back and he said, "You know what, I had this idea that perhaps that my thinking that I was sick and my feeling that I was getting better probably was affecting my state of health." And his guru said, "Well," he said, "this is what was going on. One day you felt weak, and the next day you felt strong. One day you felt weak, and the next day you felt strong. One day you felt weak, and the next day you felt strong. And your body responded beautifully to your feeling of weakness or strength." And he said, "So you're telling me that I just have to know that if I think I'm getting well, I can recover my health and recover my weight? I can." He says, "It is so." And with that, his whole body changed, and he recovered his health, and he regained his normal weight. And when he got home to his mother, he shocked her. She thought, "Oh my goodness me, he has another terrible disease. He's all bloated up. Perhaps it's dropsy." You see, because she couldn't believe that you could recover like that so soon, quickly. And so everything is so because thinking has made it so. The power of suggestion, the power of thought, the power of belief, the power of thought plus feeling creates the experiences and the reality that you and I are having at this moment. What is it going to be, my dear ones? Are we going to continue on thinking and feeling the way we've always thought and felt? So doing the way we've always done and being the way we've always been? Or is there any room at all in there to observe ourselves and pay attention to what's going on? Take a rain check. Take a little glimpse with regard to what's going on throughout the week and see if a little adjustment has to happen. I wouldn't surprise myself if I had to adjust every single day, several times in the day. So let's try it out. Let's behold ourselves as the divine, infinite intelligence that we are, and know that we can think from that, we can feel from that, we can live in that, and we can be as that is instead of our usual anxious selves that are always wondering if life is good when the bubble is going to burst, or if life is not so good, will it ever be any different? You and I have the power and the capacity to be everything we are created to be, and that is not less than. It is not anything but something that's gloriously radiant and magnificent and capable capable of taking care of everything and anything that crosses our path. So what is it going to be, my dear ones? Is this week going to be courageously, fearlessly, and passionately lived? Yes. Good. And not the same old, same old. So it is.